Today we will take a look at one of the four pillars of the generative action, the action hook. But before we dive in, we need a bit of context to what a generative action actually is. The generative action you see here is one we designed for questions about credit cards. This is in its most basic form where we've only built the pillar knowledge and instructions. We've uploaded 2 documents about credit cards to serve as the knowledge foundation of the generative action, and then coupled that with instructions on how the generative action should behave. Essentially, who it is, what it does, and how it should do it. But as great as generative AI is, it's definitely not the best at everything. And when you want to retain control and ownership over a certain process and ensure that every end user goes through the same predefined flow, action hooks are the answer. So, first, we must create the action hook, and this is done directly in the generative action. You create the hook and then decide on the type, action or API. And then you give it a relevant name based on the action it will be executing. In this case, block card. Next, we must describe or instruct the generative action on when to trigger this action hook. And we do this by simply typing trigger this hook when the user asks to block or freeze their card. Once we're done with this, we click apply and save and close. And we have now successfully created the action hook, which means the next step is to define the output of the action hook. In this case, we're using a predefined process for how to block a card, and we add this using the Boost Flow Builder. With this, we have now successfully created the action hook and defined the output of the action hook, which means we are ready to engage with the generative action through the front end. To engage with the generative action, we do this by triggering the generative action by asking a question about credit card. In this case, the user has noticed a foreign charge on their credit card and they need to know what to do next. First, the generative action suggests that we check if it's family members or maybe an international purchase that could be the reason. In this case, neither of the suggestions turns out to be the reason, which means we must escalate the problem by blocking the credit card. When the user agrees to block their credit card, we actively trigger the action hook. And once we're in the action hook, the first step is to log in. To log in, we're using the standard national method of Norway and Sweden, Bank ID. Once the authentication process is finished and we are back in the chat, we are then asked to select which of our credit cards we want to block. Once selected, we are then asked to confirm, and once confirmed, the credit card is successfully blocked. That's all I had for you today. Thank you.